Hey everybody, this is Carl. Welcome to our live call-in show. How you doing? And I just want to welcome everybody aboard tonight. And we got a lot to cover, so looking forward to it. So you see here in the title, we were talking about why Trump's approval ratings are up among minorities. And let me just take a look at something right here. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So very good. And let's see. Let's turn this one part down. There we go. All right. So, why Trump's approval ratings are up among minorities? Let's take a look at the chat here real quick. All right. Hey, Russell, how you doing? Seeing the South are changing. Libs are moving from blue states to red in massive numbers. Well, that is true. Definitely got a point there, without a doubt. That's definitely happening. So it's something we need to keep an eye on. And so let's see what else we got. Let's see, Jennifer. All you have to do is look at the other seats that were being voted on. I see Jennifer was largely in the AG. This is the same in Kentucky. All right. So anyway, big news. So Trump's approval ratings are in fact going up among minorities. Why is that? I saw in the title I put in there things such as number of minority small-owned businesses is up. Unemployment, of course, is way down all the way across the board. And let's see. Let's take a look here. All right. Yeah, unemployment's way down across the board, so that's excellent news, of course. So, those are the kind of things that, of course, the Democrats are trying to bury that story. You have to, actually, a lot of these stories they pulled up on the Washington Post, New York Times, you got to kind of like get through their bias, and then you can kind of see where they're coming from. But, yeah, I mean, they're there. So, let's see, let's pull this down a little bit. So, yeah, it's definitely there, but you just got to pull it down through here. But anyway, let's take a look at this story here real quick. All right. And this is from the American Spectator. Let's see. Let's bring this down. There we go. All right. So, American Spectator, thank you very much. Why Trump's approval ratings are up among minorities. This is by David Catron, August 19th this year. A mounting number of voter polls show that despite shrill denunciations of the president by the Democrats for his alleged racism, Trump is enjoying a dramatic increase in his approval ratings among minorities. This isn't, as some liberal news outlets and pundits have suggested, wishful thinking based on outlier polls. The trend began showing up in surveys early this year and appears to be gaining momentum. Some polls now show his approval numbers at 25% among African American voters and up to 50% among Hispanic voters. If those figures hold for the next 15 months, they will render Trump unbeatable in November. So, 3 months ago, so for the next 12 months, they will render Trump unbeatable in November 2020. If this claim seems over the top, it should be remembered that Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016 despite garnering only about 8% of the black vote and 29% of the Hispanic vote. Put another way, Clinton lost the election despite winning nearly 90% of the African American vote and two-thirds of the Hispanic vote. In other words, they simply can't beat the president if he holds them to significantly lower percentages of these key voting blocks. The Democrats and their media enablers understand this, of course, which is why they have worked so diligently to discredit polls that confirm the president's gains among minority voters. And I have another theory on that as well. I believe what you have is the silent Hispanic vote and the silent black vote, meaning that, let's be honest, regardless of ethnicity, we've all been in situations where, when you tell somebody you're voting for Trump, you catch a lot of crap. And it's like, and sometimes you don't feel like dealing with it. And so, what happened in North Carolina, this is in my opinion, what happened in North Carolina in 2016. If you remember in 2016 in North Carolina, Hillary Clinton was like, remember the whole big scene when she's hugging Chelsea and she's hugging Bill and everybody. Everybody's, oh, yeah, you're going to win. Oh, this is so great. That kind of stuff. And then at the end of the day, what happened? She lost North Carolina. And the reason why she was hugging Bill and Chelsea and thought they had North Carolina, which means they thought they had Trump beaten, was because of the fact that the exit polls had showed that she was winning handedly in North Carolina. Now, my guess is the people that were lying to her more than anybody, lying to the exit pollsters more than anybody, were the black voters, because they're walking out with their girlfriend or their wife, black men particularly, and they're walking out with their girlfriend or their wife, or even, the friends of theirs, a couple of black guys, and they didn't want them into exit pollsters. In fact, even if they're by themselves, they're like, well, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you may be from the neighborhood. You may tell somebody I voted for Trump. And they kept it quiet. And they probably just lied to the pollsters. It's the only thing that could explain it, because the exit polling showed Clinton winning that going away in North Carolina, and Trump ended up winning it. In my opinion, that was the silent black vote that gave him the victory in North Carolina. And the same thing with like Wisconsin. You got Madison, you got Milwaukee, large population, large black population in both those cities. Michigan, you got Detroit, you got Lansing. Pennsylvania, you got Erie, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. Ohio, you got Cleveland, Cincinnati, same thing. So even though the exit polling was showing one story, the actual vote totals were showing another. In my opinion, of all the people who would probably be in a position where they catch the most crap over. You see black conservatives catch a lot of crap, get called all kinds of names I'm not going to repeat here, get called all kinds of names by people because, they support Trump, they support Republicans. So I think even these polls, I think these polls are underrepresenting the black vote and probably the Hispanic vote. There's one story I was showing here, and they had a focus group, and they said, is there such a thing as silent Hispanic voters for Trump? And the guy looked around and goes, yeah, like all of us, like we don't tell anybody. We don't tell anybody, that we're Trump supporters, because they just didn't want to catch any crap. Now, understandable, like you say, oh, we should all stand up and be proud, but, if you're going to catch a lot of crap over something, maybe it's better just to, be quiet and go to the polls and vote Trump. Roland Martin talked about this after Florida in 2018 and Georgia, where Stacey Abrams lost in Georgia and Gillum lost in Florida, respectively. And he wrote, believe, and he was yelling and screaming at black men in both Florida and Georgia for not coming out for Stacey Abrams and Gillum respectively in those states. He was very mad at them, and they're like, well, we're not, we're not backing gun control, we're not backing, health care for illegal aliens. A lot of Hispanics aren't backing health care for illegal aliens, especially when you tell them what the price tag's going to be. So same thing happened when illegal aliens got picked up in those food processing plants in Mississippi, and what you saw there going on. Let me see if I can fix this. What you saw there going on was a lot of people lining up for jobs was Hispanic people, black people, white people, and they're like, well, we're U.S. citizens, we have green cards, we're going to go and get these jobs, and so I mean, I think what you got going on more than just the polling numbers, what it's showing, it's also showing that you have a silent black vote there. Hey, Mr. Solex, how you doing over there? Good seeing you. Good seeing you in the chat. So anyway, so this, let's see, here we go. So let's continue on with the story. So this began in earnest when in January of this year, Maris found that Trump's approval ratings among Hispanics had reached 50%. Then in February, a Morning Consult poll showed Hispanic approval of the president at 42%. This was followed by a March poll from McLaughlin and Associates found Hispanic approval for the president at 50%. All three polls were discounted as outliers by the media, of course, or simply ignored. This continued in June after Harvard-Harris showed similar findings. Much the same strategy was still being pursued last week after Zogby Analytics discovered even worse news for Democrats. And Zogby wrote, race has also played a factor in Trump's approval ratings. Let me see if I can fix this. There we go. Okay. All right. All right. See, I just had to hit this one little button over there, and then see, it got hit right. Okay. All right. So anyway, so race has also played a factor in Trump's job approval ratings. Hispanics this time around were much more likely to approve of his job performance, 49%, while the president also saw his numbers jump with African Americans. This was his second straight poll with over a quarter support from African Americans, 28%. If Trump wins half of Hispanics and a quarter of African Americans in 2020, Democrats will be in trouble. This is the understatement of the decade. If Zogby numbers about African American voters are accurate, particularly combined with gains the president has seen among independents, older generation X voters, maturing millennial voters, is it really possible that Trump, who has so often been accused of racism by the Democrats and the media, is gaining traction with black voters? Zogby Analytics is by no means the only polling firm to find a shift toward Trump among the Democratic Party's most loyal supporters. Rasmussen Reports, for example, found an August survey Trump's approval among African Americans exceeded 30%. And now I'm going to jump over to another poll here real quick because this was a poll from the NAACP. And again, you got to remember, pollsters, it depends on how they ask the question, and then also who's taking the poll. But this is an NAACP poll, and I'm going to punch up just this one section right here. Now, the article itself was pretty negative as it related to President Trump, and you can imagine that the leaders of the NAACP, they're in the business of making money off of race hustling. So of course they make their money if they keep us divided. That's who they are, and that's who they've always been, and that's what they're going to do. And let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger here for you guys. You can see it. There we go. That'll work. All right. So you see here in the poll, and they show disapprove 79%, and that's what they talked about in this story from NAACP. And this was from, I believe, I want to say, let's take a look and find it when this was taken. See, August, this was last year. This was before the unemployment numbers even went through the roof. So you're going to see, let's see, where is it? Right there. All right, so August of 2018, NAACP does a poll. And, of course, they highlight the fact, you see the number there, it says total, white, black, Latino, Asian, Native American. But you see black, and you see 21% approval rating. Now, this was a year ago, and this is the NAACP poll. So this is nobody's going to say, well, you racist NAACP, you're just trying to show more support for Trump than there really is. The NAACP in August of last year showed him at 21% approval. That's a big number. Okay, so if Zogby's coming in at 28 now, and NAACP had him at 21 a year ago, he's probably somewhere in between 21 and 28, maybe 29, and Rasmussen has it at 30. So if he gets to that 25% mark, a hard number, and I'll be honest with you, I think he was over that number in 2016. It just doesn't make any sense that the exit polls had it so wrong in North Carolina. I don't believe it was just like the exit pollsters trying to, put the news out there that, Clinton's got this, Trump voters stay home. No, because when they published that was the only big voters that would have affected would have been on the West Coast, because they came in around 5 o'clock. I remember I was down in Las Vegas picking up some suits, and it was around 5 p.m. when that exit poll came out. So 5 p.m. it was right after the polls closed in North Carolina, probably at 8. So they weren't trying to do, I don't know who they were trying to get, but I think the exit polls were correct in that people lied to them. And I think the main group of people that lied to them in these exit polls in North Carolina were black people, primarily black men, probably some black women, primarily black men. And you look at the states he won again. Michigan, there's Milwaukee, Madison. Michigan, that's Lansing and Detroit. You're talking Wisconsin, that's Milwaukee, Madison. You're talking Pennsylvania, that's Erie, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. See what else? Ohio, Cleveland, Cincinnati, North Carolina, Charlotte. I mean, large numbers of black people live in those cities and those states. So NAACP has them at 21%. Now, you probably didn't hear about this. It wasn't really reported very much in the media, because it was like, whoa, what the hell? It's like, whoa, 21%. I'm sure they were figuring it would be like around what they said he got in 2016, which was 8%. Well, there's a big difference between 8% and 21%. It's a big number. Okay, so 21, and that's an NAACP poll. You can imagine the kind of questions they asked to get the numbers even like that. So, that probably is somewhere up around 20%, probably 30%. I don't, with the NAACP poll at 21% a year ago, I don't see those other polls as outliers. In the Hispanic numbers, he was at 30% supposedly at the election. And that was before number of businesses for Hispanics have gone through the roof, number of unemployment levels. Hispanic men, the employment level is lower than the national average. It's like 2.1% or something. I mean, that's just crazy serious. And here's a story from, here's a story from my own state of Nevada. Let me pull this up real quick for you guys. Okay, minority-owned businesses in Nevada leveling the playing field. This is just from November 1st by Jennifer Rachel Balmer. So she goes on to say, Nevada is open for business. The state is considered business-friendly, and that goes for international corporations and small minority-owned businesses equally. With my business, this is someone talking here. With my business, one of the things I observed is that Nevada is truly open for business, whether you are a minority or any other ethnic type of individual. Doesn't make any difference, said Bob Downey, owner, Pride Staff, Las Vegas, a minority and veteran-owned staffing service. And let me get the name of the. This is from Nevada Business magazine. Here we go. I guess it's delivered to my office every month, so it's a good magazine. Anyway, let's see. So, and he goes on to say, she goes on to say, that doesn't mean there aren't issues for minority-owned businesses. It just means there are opportunities. Minority-owned businesses face many of the same challenges non-minority-owned businesses face, but ethnicity and culture can play a role. Let's see. As far as what makes the Asian Chamber of Commerce different from other chambers, knowing the culture is huge, and not only that culture, but the language. A lot of our business owners that come here from different countries don't speak English very well, and sometimes they have a hard time following procedures like opening a business, said Sony Vinya, President, Asian Chamber of Commerce. The chamber can help. The designation of Asian Chamber is important because there are 40 countries identified as Asian. And this from the Latin Chamber of Commerce, the fact that we're the Latin Chamber of Commerce differs us from others in that we're the trusted organization within the Hispanic community, said Peter Guzman, CEO and president. We've earned the trust factor, which is really a very important factor in the Hispanic community. The Latin Chamber is growing as non-Hispanic businesses join because the Hispanic market is $17 billion in Nevada and continuing to grow. I live in Southern Nevada. Before that, I lived in Southern California. Before that, I lived in Houston. So I know a lot about Hispanic small businesses. And continuing to grow. Everybody is trying to get a little bit of that, Guzman added, by the numbers. According to the Small Business Administration in Nevada, firms with fewer than 100 employees have the largest share of small business employment. According to Sam Males, director of Small Business Development Center, approximately 70% of Nevada businesses employ 10 or fewer people. In Southern Nevada, where the Latin Chamber is entering its 43rd year, the Hispanic market is booming. Now check this out. When I read this, I was like, wow. In fact, I think it was this article that kind of gave me the inspiration to even put this whole show together. Hispanics are opening up businesses at a 2-to-1 faster rate than non-Hispanics and failing 50% less than non-Hispanics and Latino-owned businesses and non-Latino-owned businesses, said Guzman. I mean, think about that. Hispanics are opening up businesses at 2-to-1 faster rate. Now, when you open a business, hold on. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, hold on. Let me get that. Boom. There you go. Yeah, good point, Keely. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think Keely makes a good point there. Basically, she writes, so a substantial amount of southern states, African Americans will vote Democrat unless Trump is on the ticket. You know what? I did not, Keely, I did not even think of that myself. Excellent point. So you're right. So like in off-year elections, Trump's not on the top of the ticket, and Republicans being Republicans. Although I have an article in here where it's talking about Hispanic voters and black voters sticking with Republicans. But I think you're right. I think Trump is like, well, first of all, Trump is Trump. I mean, he'll say things that you don't expect, but he's very transparent, and that plays well against all ethnic groups. Among all ethnic groups, you just like tell me what you're thinking. If you don't like me, tell me. If you like me, tell me. If you're going to help me, tell me. If you're not going to help me, tell me. Trump's like that. If he's not going to help somebody, he's like, well, I don't care about you. And it's like, politics be damned. It's like, oh, man, you just lost 5% of the vote. Well, whatever. I mean, you can't script this guy. He's very real. And I think that plays well among all ethnic groups. But I did not even think of that, Keely. Excellent point. So Keely writes again, so substantial amount of southern states, African Americans will vote Democrat unless Trump is on the ticket. And when Trump's on the ticket, you'll see probably a higher percentage of African Americans voting Republican. And I guess the question for both of us, Keely, would be, how does that play for down ticket when Trump is in fact on the when Trump is on the ticket in 2020? Are they going to vote Republican down ticket as well, or are they going to split their vote and vote Trump on top of the ticket for president, and down ticket though maybe vote Democrat for down ticket like Congress people, senators, governors, state senators, assemblies, etc. So that'd be interesting to see. But excellent point, Keely Moore. Thank you so much. And in fact, Keely, get you. Yeah, Keely, I just made you a moderator. That was an excellent point. So you get the blue wrench. Hey, get you the blue wrench for that one, blue team. There you go. Apocalypse Now. Hey, get your case of beer for that one, red team. So anyway, let's take a look. Continue on with the story. But yeah, Hispanics opening a business is 2-1. So like I was saying, you open a small business, you become an entrepreneur. Well, you start thinking about things like definitely, well, first of all, Hispanics generally think about law and order to begin with. Latinos, Hispanics, you generally think about law and order to begin with. So that's a given. Then you open a business, you're really thinking about law and order. Then, of course, you're thinking about, what are you thinking about if you're opening a small business? Well, I own a small business, okay? I think about this all the time. You think about regulations. You think about federal regulations, state regulations, local regulations. That's like how many forms you got to fill out, what hoops you got to jump through to open the business, how many times you have to be in compliance all the way through, no matter what. Then, of course, you think about taxes. Like, hey, I'm a small business, Schedule C, maybe just a self-employed person, Schedule C. Those tax rates went down. You're going to start seeing the effect of that this year, right? In January, February, March, April, when people start filling out their taxes and paying less taxes or getting refund checks, the small business tax rates really take effect for tax year 2019. So when you're filing in 2020, you'll see that. So the thing about low taxes, low regulation, you think about pro-business opportunities, you think about foreign investment, you think about unemployment numbers. If you're owning a business, that's what you're thinking about. And if you're coming to this country again, until about 10 years ago, immigrants that came here weren't coming here to get on welfare. About 10, 12 years ago, then these stupid Democrats, these liberals, they get out there, oh, you don't need to go get a job. You don't need to start a business. Well, no, that's why I came to this country. Like, I left Mexico because they lean kind of socialist. It's hard to start a company. I left Honduras for the same thing. I want to start a business. Well, one, I want my kids to go to a good school, get a good education, but I want to start a business, be an entrepreneur. I want to live the American dream. I want to own my own business. Oh, no, go on welfare. Look, you get this EBT card, you get this free housing, and you get some free extra cash to go along with it, and of course you get free health care. They're like, well, I could have stayed home for that. Well, no, you get that here. It's like, well, here's the problem. Money changes everybody. It changes people. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're an immigrant. I don't care if you're a legal immigrant. I don't care if you're illegal immigrant. I don't care if you're a U.S. citizen. People throw money at you. It changes you. Okay, and that's the whole point of the Democrats. They like throwing money at you to change you. It's like even, you can take a U.S. citizen and say, here's a bunch of free money. It's like, well, I didn't ask for it. Well, here it is. What are you, stupid? You don't want to take free money? It's like, well, now you call me stupid. I don't want to be stupid. It's like, well, okay. And the evidence of this was a story I covered a few months ago when the Trump administration put out that they're going to start using the fact if you applied for welfare as a determination whether you can become a U.S. citizen. Like if you're a green card holder right now and you're applying for citizenship, and one of the factors the Trump administration said they'll use is whether or not you've applied for or been on welfare. Well, what happened in California in two counties, I want to say it was Santa Clara County and San Francisco County, if I'm not mistaken, the number of Hispanics and Latinos applying for welfare went way down. I think it went like down 20% in Santa Clara County or 20% in San Francisco County. The story I covered a couple of months ago. And because and then there were no subsequent stories of people starving. Okay, that's the important thing. Nobody then said, "Oh, look, now people are starving because they're off. They're off welfare." It's like, no. In other words, they didn't need it. They didn't come here to get that. They didn't want it. They didn't ask for it. Somebody just threw it at them. And when you told them, "Hey, it might affect your ability to become a U.S. citizen," which is what they really want to be. They want to be a U.S. citizen more than like these leftists want to be U.S. citizens, which is hilarious. They want to be a U.S. citizen. The leftists say, "Oh, we hate America." Well, they risk their life to come here to get to this damn country, like they want to be Americans. So anyway, so as soon as you told them, hey, if you go on welfare, you could lose your right to become a U.S. citizen, they said, well, okay, well, we don't need it. We didn't ask for these stupid leftists over there, that idiot over there with the long hair, the hippie, he said get on it, so now I'm going to get off it. Okay. And then again, there were no subsequent stories of anybody starving to death. Okay. That didn't happen. So... There you go. So anyway, so this is the point. And the numbers, I mean, in Nevada, I'm sure this number, I didn't find the numbers nationwide, but I'm sure the numbers are pretty consistent nationwide. Hispanics are opening up businesses 2-to-1 faster rates than non-Hispanics in the state of Nevada alone. And failing 50% less than non-Hispanic businesses. That's a hell of a number. And the fact that they're not failing, well, they're in business. They're self-employed. It's like, of course they want low taxes. Of course they want law and order. They want somebody breaking into their place. Of course they want less regulation. They want to fill out all these forms. They just want to start a business. Enjoy the American dream, which is owning your own business, being your own boss. Ta-da! So that's where you'll see, in my opinion, the trend towards voting Republican, voting Trump. And then you add into the fact Trump's done these opportunity zones for like inner cities to bring private investment over the next 10 years. They estimate, nobody's arguing this number, about $100 billion in private investment to the inner cities. So, I mean, you look at that, that's awesome. So anyway, the story went on to talk about, let's see, there's some other things they went into, wrong place. All right, let's see here. Women-owned businesses, they grew. That didn't grow too much. Let's see. So anyway, that's a pretty good story. There was some other details, but it gets kind of into the weeds. But I think that was like an excellent story. So anyway, let's take a look about. Now, this was an interesting story I pulled up from the Washington Post, and it talked about 5 myths about Hispanics. Where is it? Okay, this is from the Washington Post. And he says they're not a racial group, and they're not all opposed to Trump. This is from the Washington Post. Kind of interesting. And see who wrote it. Horacio Sierra, October 3rd, 2019. So, envious of Spain's conquest in the Americas, British propaganda circulated La Leyenda Negra, the Black Legend, a series of writings that denigrated Spaniards in the Spanish Empire as cruel, haughty, and intolerant. Starting in the 1500s, Anglophones have propagated myths about Hispanic cultures ever since. Though Hispanics make up 18.3% of the U.S. population, the country's largest minority group, many Americans continue to remix and reuse centuries-old stereotypes about them. Hispanic Heritage Month is a good occasion to shoot down 5 of the most common mitos. Myth number 1. Hispanics are a racial group. From CNN and Brookings Institution, exit polls to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, public health studies, Hispanics are often listed as a distinct racial group. When a diversity task force recommended the elimination of New York City school programs for gifted students, the committee and the news media lumped Hispanics into one racial category, calling the city's Hispanic majority schools segregated, without paying attention to how racial differences among Hispanics affect identities and outcomes. Yeah. Hispanic constitutes an ethnic community, not a race, a distinction evident on forms that ask if you're non-Hispanic, white, or non-Hispanic black, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Hispanics identify as white, 65%, some other race, 27%, mixed race, 5%, black, 2%, indigenous, 1%, and Asian, 0.4%. Oh, hey, one thing I want to get back to on that poll, I almost forgot it. Let me see. Is this the poll I was looking at? Hold on a sec. Oh, yeah. Take a look at this again. Go all the way to the right. And I was shocked on this one. Native American support on the far right, Native American, 43%. The orange, that's funny, orange, there you go. Orange is approval. So 43 approval for Native Americans. I forgot to bring that up. I thought that was interesting. I'm like, no shit. Okay. But anyway, let's back. I didn't want to skip over that. Back to 5 myths. All right, so let's see. All right, let's see. Spanish is a foreign exchange. Let's see, hold on. Let's see. Okay, myth number 3. This is important. Hispanics support liberal immigration policies. A comprehensive Dallas, he's saying this is a myth. A comprehensive Dallas Morning News report on immigration and the 2020 Latino vote said that President Trump's immigration policies are expected to fuel a historic turnout among Latinos. The National Hispanic Leadership Agenda maintains that federal immigration law and policy continues to be a top priority for the Latino community. Such claims create the sense that Hispanics naturally embrace liberal immigration policies. After the 2018 midterm election saw Democrats lose Hispanic votes in Florida, Simon Rosenberg, president of the Democratic group NDN, cited Trump's relentless attacks on immigrants and declared with surprise, "I don't know what happened." In other words, Democrats lost Hispanic votes in Florida in 2018, and they're like, "Well, wait a second. Trump's been out there talking all this crap," and they're like, and the Democratic group says he cites Trump's relentless attacks on immigrants, and then declares with surprise, "I don't know what happened." It's like, yeah, well, this guy's going to tell us. Well, here we go. What happened is that Hispanics do not speak in unison when it comes to immigration. In a Washington Post ABC News poll from April, 36% of Hispanics described the situation with illegal immigration across the U.S.-Mexico border as a crisis. Think about that. They were saying, yeah, it's a crisis, man. It's really messed up down there. Similar to the share of Americans overall who said the same. So they were like consistent with everybody else. Organizations such as Latino Coalition offer complex views. They support legal immigration, encourage stronger security to deter illegal immigration, and oppose local municipalities that defy federal immigration laws. Go figure. Myth number 4, Hispanic Latino are synonymous. Now, you would think like the Democrats want this, they do want to be just one voting block, right? Say, oh, Hispanics, vote for us. Oh, Latinos, vote for us. It's like, well, no, everybody they vote differently depending on where you're from and everything else. Let me see. Let's get down to here. Okay. Myth number 5. There you go. This is a big one. Trump can't win over Hispanic voters. This guy from the Washington Post saying that's a myth. Okay. So he goes on to say, given Trump's callous attitude towards Hispanics and his disingenuous appeal to the community, analysts predict that Latinos will not vote for his reelection. Organizations such as Unidos US and the League of United Latin American Citizens, as well as pundits such as Ana Navarro, lambast Trump's insensitivity to the Hispanic community. And polls find that a majority of Hispanics say they won't vote for Trump in 2020, which would mirror presidential preference since 1980. So nothing new, it's 1980. He goes on to say, though, but that doesn't mean Trump can't appeal to enough Hispanic voters to make a difference. In 2016, Trump received 28% of the national Hispanic vote, but 35% of Florida's Hispanic vote. Okay, now I still think that 20% number is low, and I still think that 35% number in Florida is low. But anyway, we'll just go even with these numbers. In 2016, Trump received 20% of the national Hispanic vote, but 35% of Florida's Hispanic vote, helping cement his 1 percentage point victory in the state. Savvy campaigns understand that the Hispanic community is not a monolith. Right, in other words, if you want to sit there and believe they're like, oh, Hispanics, they all hate Trump, well, you're about to lose an election if you're just going to sit on your ass and think that. So this guy says, savvy campaigns understand that the Hispanic community is not a monolith. Trump's campaign has invested early in Florida, where the Hispanic population largely comprises Cuban, Venezuelan, and Nicaraguan political refugees, with narrowly tailored appeals to communism, abhorring voters who are wary of political rhetoric that evokes even Europe's socialist democracies, with an eye on growing number of anti-abortion Hispanic evangelicals. Generally, Hispanics are generally Catholic, and I guess there's a whole bunch becoming evangelicals as well, but they're generally anti-abortion. Period. They are. You notice they have large families. There's a reason for that. They're against abortion. Okay? So, well, who's the party in favor of killing babies on the table? That would be the Democrats. That really upsets them a lot. And I don't think they're not going to bring that one home pretty good in 2020. Yeah, all they got to do is take the quotes from, you can take from Cuomo in New York, that Governor of Virginia, Northam. You go around the board. You don't have to make this up. You can say, here's what they said. Here's what the law says. Here's a governor who vetoed the bill that said if a baby survives an abortion, the one up in Montana, I think Steve Bullock. I think he was running for president, might still be, I don't know. But anyway, Steve Bullock in Montana, he was proud about the fact that he vetoed the bill that said if a baby survives an abortion, it's like the baby's laying there on the table. The bill said, okay, the people at the abortion clinic must call 911 and seek medical treatment for this kid. It seemed like a reasonable thing. Hey, there's a baby, it survived the abortion, get it some damn medical care. He vetoed that, and he was proud of it. He even said it. Hey, man. Just say, here are the Democrats. Just take this guy's quote, this guy's quote, this guy's quote. Blow this into the Hispanic community and say, look, this is what's going on with these guys. So if you vote for top of the ticket, whoever it's going to be, H.A. Goodman believes it's going to be Hillary Clinton, you vote for top of the ticket, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get babies on the operating table, allowed to die. Or maybe in some cases, if they get impatient, just, put a hand over its mouth. I don't know. So on late-term abortions. So, I mean, there you go. So anyway, he goes on, despite their outreach efforts, Democratic campaigns flounder when they take the Hispanic vote for granted and pander to the community. Hillary Clinton's loss demonstrated that having a Spanish-speaking gringo like Senator Tim Kaine as your running mate isn't enough. Trump, despite perhaps because of his blunt, offensive, and arrogant rhetoric, will continue to appeal to a certain segment of the Hispanic population, American citizens whose families fled leftist regimes and are emboldened by promises of good jobs, low taxes, and the American dream. No kidding. Exactly. So let's see. Let's jump to what do we got here? And this was from, I believe, let's see, NBC News. Trump 2020 is targeting Latino voters in non-traditional areas. And Bertica Cabrera Morris from Latinos for Trump wrote, I think that you win campaign with what we call, and I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, tajitos, translated as to little bits. It's by NBC News reported this from the Associated Press. There we go. And President Donald Trump's reelection campaign is making contrarian appeals to the most unusual places, trying to win over Hispanic voters in states not known for them. Okay. That's weird. What's going on there? Oh, okay. All right. So, let me get back to this. Re-election campaign is making contrarian appeals in the most unusual places, trying to win over Hispanic voters in states not known for them, like Pennsylvania. Yeah, I mean, see, you got to remember something. Last time Trump was outspent 2-1. Hillary Clinton raised $1.2 billion. Trump only had $600 million. So, he was outspent 2-1. Well, now the numbers are blowing through the roof as far as what they're raising. I mean, they're breaking all records for the quarter for monthly totals, quarterly totals, year to date totals, like comparing 2019 to 2015. He's breaking all the records for fundraising. So now they got some cash. They got a lot of cash, and DNC has no cash. In these campaigns, the individual campaigns aren't raising a lot of money. And of course, individual campaigns, they're not coordinated, so they're not directed. But now they got a lot of cash, and they're saying, "Well, what are we going to do with it?" Well, hey, we got 30%, 20%, 30% last time of the Hispanic vote. Let's push this up. Hey, we saw an NAACP poll showing black support for Trump at 21% from August of last year. It's like, well, shit. Let's not just sit back and let's we got the cash. Let's go do something. And so with Latinos for Trump, they got like 500 paid staff members. They're going out to all these different states, and they're making a lot of inroads. They're saying, hey, look, again, small businesses. They want, anti-abortion. Right? Or even anti-letting a baby die on the table. Okay, that's a good selling. Hey, don't vote for them unless you want dead babies on the small businesses, low regulations, low taxes, law and order, that kind of stuff. And when you talk about law and order, let me just even like you say, illegal immigration. Well, this is what's. I'm going to jump over to this story real quick. It's from Washington Times. And I'm sure this doesn't make anybody happy, whether you're Anglo, Latino, African American, or whoever. Like this story here from Washington Times. More than 600 children are recycled, quote unquote. You got to come up with a word. Recycled by migrant smugglers at the border, according to ICE. 600 children. In other words, 600 kids. They get up to the United States, and they're phony family members, right? And these poor kids, like maybe this little kid right here. They show him the picture, running down the street. He's like, oh, nuts, and were recycled through the border over the last year, including some who were carried across 8 times by a different person each time, looking to exploit lax policies to gain a foothold in the U.S., a top ICE official told Congress on Wednesday. And those are only cases that were detected. Official said. Then the recycled children are one of the more disturbing aspects of illegal border flow over the last 12 months, which set records for the number of children and families who snuck into the U.S. I mean, that's crazy. 600 children were recycled through the border over the last year, including some who were carried across 8 times. I mean, think about that, 8 times by a different person each time, looking to exploit lax policy to gain a foothold in the U.S. And those are only cases that were detected. That's not the cases that weren't caught. Let's see. Hey, Philip, how you doing there? Good seeing you down there in the chat room. All right, let's see. The recycled children are one of the more disturbing aspects of illegal border flow over the last 12 months, which set records for the number of children and families who snuck into the U.S. The families were joined by a lax policy imposed by a federal court that gives adults a quick release into communities as long as they brought a son or daughter with them. The result was massive levels of fraud, with adults renting or outright buying unrelated children in order to present themselves as a family, authorities said. In some cases, it was a one-off, but in other instances, children were recycled across the border multiple times. I mean, so, again, that doesn't make anybody happy. And let's see, let's get back to this story from NBC News, Associated Press. Right, so they go on to say, let's see here, hold on a sec. Oh, wait, I got to do this. Hey, call now. Phone lines are open. Call now. Phone lines are open. Call now. Phone lines are open. Anyway, the phone lines are, in fact, open, and the phone number is 775-273-8970. And if you do want to appear by video call, then that would be send an email to my email address, which is right up on top there, ca2jogger@gmail.com. That's ca2, my last name, jogger@gmail.com. And you can appear by video phone call. You can appear side by side. Always a good time. We've had up to 8 guests plus me on here, kind of a Brady Bunch style. It's a lot of fun. And generally we'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guests, very manageable. So if you do want to appear by video call, you can appear, and then somebody wants to appear with you at the same time, that's fine too. We can, again, I could managing it, I can up to like say 5 guests at once, no big deal. So, but if you do want to call, the phone lines are in fact open, 775-273-8970. And so, yeah, call on in. Live call-in show. Very few people have live call-in shows on YouTube. Why? Because anything that's said over the airwaves counts as you saying it, and of course that's a good way to get somebody zapped off if you're a troll. Now, for the trolls, to let you know, I do have something known as a broadcast delay unit, which is completely geared towards both the audio and the video portion of this. So if you do think you can call in and put something stupid on my YouTube site, you won't. The only person who's going to hear it is going to be me. And before it gets to YouTube, it'll be zapped off, and you'll get the zombie. And when I say the zombie, what am I talking about? To those who've been with me for a long time, you guys know what the zombie is. But I will show you the zombie. This is the zombie. If you call and you say something like this, watch this. Well, nobody say it. And so there you go. So, and right. So you see that if you call in, you try to put something bad on the site, you get the zombie. But anyway, the phone lines are open. You can call now if you like. And the phone number is, hold on, let me see here. There we go. Phone number is 775-273-8970. So, yeah, please feel free to take advantage of the fact that we have a live call-in show. You can get your opinion out there on YouTube. More than happy. The show is called Carl's Opinion, but obviously I like hearing other people's opinion. Like Keely brought up that good point there in the chat. It's like I didn't even think about that myself, whether, that's, you learn stuff. That's why, I watch a lot of intelligent content creators like Sticks and Hammer, H.A. Goodman for sure. And have you noticed my people have been with me for a long time? You notice I've changed my time. I used to go on at 10, 10:30. But H.A. goes on around after 10, 10:30, 11. And I like watching the show live. And I couldn't watch the show live when I'm on my show. So I cut my time back a couple hours so I could watch his live show. But there you go. But all right, so hey, the zombie. Yep, you got it. The zombie. Damn right, man. All right, so let's continue on with this story here. And now this is from NBC News from the Associated Press. So remember now, this is going to have a slant against Trump. But the thing about the reason why you need to read these stories, you can find the truth in there. Like they don't like to admit stuff, but they're going to cover stuff and they got to put in the truth. Now, so his second, for instance, his second campaign is is far better financed and organized than his first, but is pressing every potential tactical advantage, including trying to capture even small slivers of the Hispanic vote, hoping it adds up to the narrowest of winning margins. And then this is, again, she says, I think that you win campaigns with what we call tajiditos, little bits. You have to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, said Bertica Cabrera Morris, a Cuban native and Latinos for Trump advisory board member. You don't need everyone from every group, but you have to have a little bit of everything. For many reasons, not the least of which is the president's hostility. Well, that's bullshit. Okay, never any hostility. All right, so anyway. Let's see. Let's skip down past the hostility part. Okay. Again, these are good stories to read. You just got to remember they're biased, and when you read them, don't get upset. Just kind of say, okay, let's get to when you read through them, you'll find, ooh, that's interesting. Let's see. Okay, the re-election campaign. Here we go. The re-election campaign's efforts are understandably focused on key swing states like Florida and Nevada. It could also shore up Trump's hold on Arizona and Texas. Increased outreach may also have an effect in less obvious areas where Trump eked out a 2016 victory. Though, like parts of Pennsylvania, where the Latino population is booming and where his margin for error is slender. Latinos are moving out of the urban centers, moving away from the stronghold of the Democrats, said Jose Fuentes, a former attorney general of Puerto Rico who's advising the president's reelection effort, and called Pennsylvania a quote-unquote perfect example. We're micro-targeting those areas that can be successful for us. That means locales like New York, like York, that's a city in southern part of the state of Pennsylvania, with a population around 45,000, famous for its York barbells. Did not know that. It is nearly a third Hispanic, many with roots in Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic. The city, heavily Democratic, is surrounded by solidly Trump country. Fuentes said party officials have identified about a dozen areas nationwide to woo Hispanic, Black, and Asian voters, and funded the training of 500 plus staffers, that's paid staffers, to increase their recruiting efforts at local events. Democrat Hillary Clinton beat Trump 66% to 28% among Hispanics nationally, but that was lower than 71%, 5 points lower than Barack Obama won in 2012. Bush also captured more than 40% of the Hispanic vote in 2004, but his message was far more inclusive. Now, here's the thing about that. It was actually 42%. Excuse me, I'm going to grab a cigarette. Okay. Let's see. Not bad. 45 minutes without a cigarette. Oh, hey, Bernie. Bernie Mabe, see you down there. Good seeing you. Sunday evening, Carl. Thumbs up and share, please, Patriots. Hey, Bernie, good seeing you over there, man. Hey, good morning, good Sunday, good for you, good Sunday morning for me. Still Saturday night, West Coast time, Pahrump, Nevada, state of Nevada. But anyway, so that 42% he got in 2004. That was a really crazy number. It probably helped him. Well, it definitely helped him win, but I think it was caught the Democrats off guard. That was when he beat John Kerry. Hold on a sec. So this would happen. See, I've always said that Hispanics and Latinos, here we go, because remember there's a difference. Just learned this from the Washington Post. Yay! But anyway, so that's why I like reading stuff. You learn stuff. But anyway, so you got 42% in 2004. And I've always said Hispanics are natural Republicans. They're pro-family. They're pro-law and order. They're pro-education. They come to this country so the kids get a good education. They're anti-abortion. They want to start small businesses. We just saw the numbers on that. I guess I wasn't making that up. Which means they want lower taxes because they're running a business, right? And they want less regulations. Well, I mean, there you go. I mean, that's right. That's your conservative Republican right there in your face. Now, the thing that's always held them back from going en masse to the Republican Party, and I think that 2004 bears this out, proves this point. 2004, they were talking. Remember, they had the Gang of Eight, the big deal on immigration reform. They were going to allow. They're going to do like an amnesty, but they're going to say, okay, if you're here, you're there, you can become citizens. You can, but we're going to say these people can become citizens. These people can. These people have a pathway to citizenship, and we're going to have more security on the border. Boom! It was a big deal they're going to do in 2004. Now, here's the deal. Obviously, the law never got signed, it never got passed, and it never got signed by the president. But just with the promise that the immigration issue is going to be taken care of once and for all, just that it was going to be done, okay? Suddenly you saw the vote go from like 28% Hispanic in 2000 to, I think it was less than that, it might have been 25% Hispanic to Bush in 2000 to 42% in 2004. Just with the promise, because Hispanics, some Hispanics are single-issue voters, which, I've been times when I've been a single-issue voter, so I can't complain. And one thing is like immigration. It's like, they're like, okay, look, I'm afraid, this friend I know is going to get deported. I'm afraid, my sister may get deported, or I may get deported. My kids who are citizens may have to stay here because they don't want to come back with me. But once in 2004, just with the promise that the immigration issue was gone, that it was going to be addressed one way or the other, whether it was a good bill or a bad bill, didn't matter. It was going to be everybody was going to know what the rule was. This is it. If you're over here, you can become a U.S. citizen. Or you are a U.S. citizen now, you have a pathway, you don't, you're gone, bye, and we're going to tighten up the border. Just with that promise, Bush jumped to 42% of the Latino vote in 2004. It wasn't even done. It was just with the promise of it getting done. So that's what I'm saying. So if we get rid of this stupid issue, I think you'll see the Hispanic voters and Latino voters as go right to the Republican Party. Because what are they going to do? Stay with the Democrats? Higher taxes? You know, killing babies on tables, or letting them die on tables if they survive an abortion? Or just abortion at will, late-term abortion at will? I mean, really? You know, getting involved in all kinds of foreign wars where a lot of their kids serve in those military units. A lot of Latinos and Hispanics in the military. And they're like, oh, great, you're going to send my kid over to die for something stupid. Okay, yeah, I'm sure that's what they're wanting. Of course not. So anyway, if we get rid of that one issue, if somebody works it out one way or the other, and that's why the Democrats don't want to work it out. That's why they just keep it out there. They just want to keep it all vague and ambiguous. They saw, hey, they're not stupid. They saw what happened in 2004, which was just a promise something was going to get done. And suddenly 42%, like, well, this voting block is only growing. And so Trump gets 42%, in 2020, or they even higher, it's game over to the Democrats. I mean, have a nice day. If he gets, say he gets 45% of the Hispanic vote, 25% of the black vote in 2020, game over, have a nice day. There's your swing states. It's not even close. It's like, goodbye. So anyway, of course they want to keep up the antagonism and the race hustling and everything else. Keep calling them names, and everything under the sun, because, boom. But anyway, so let's see here. Let's see. And now they say, okay, let's see. Hispanics make up only 8% of Pennsylvania's population. Trump won the state, home to about 12.8 million people, by around 44,000 votes, or less than 1% of those cast. Nearly 1 million Hispanics now live in Pennsylvania, and the Pew Research Center estimated that for the 2018 midterms, 501,000 statewide were eligible to vote, 10th largest in the nation. Let's see. So, okay. AP's VoteCast data showed 38% of Pennsylvania's Hispanics voted Republican. Think about that. 38% of Pennsylvania's Hispanics voted Republican in 2018 congressional races, but Democrats still won the Senate and governor's race. But still, yeah, okay. I know, but right, NBC News the other day, well, the Democrats still won the Senate. Okay, fine. 38% of Hispanics voted Republican in Pennsylvania in 2018. And that was an off year. Remember now, the Mueller investigation was still hanging over the president's head, and the Republicans still got 30% of the vote, of Hispanic vote in Pennsylvania. That's what I'm saying. You read these stories, you can, the facts are there. You just got to go dig them up. They're there, though. Fuentes said a key to winning Hispanic support is tailoring messages to people who have ancestral roots in different parts of Latin America. Exactly. He understands not all Hispanics are the same. Hello. Cubans, okay, he goes on. Cubans are chiefly interested in U.S. relations with the island of Cuba and with Venezuela. He said for Puerto Ricans, it's recovery after the devastation of the hurricane and U.S. statehood questions. Mexicans tend to be most motivated by commercial relations, as are people from most of South America. Central Americans tend to be most focused on immigration policy, primarily Central Americans' immigration policy, because they're like the newest group of immigrants and illegal immigrants and asylum seekers that are coming into the country right now. Messages targeting those types of voters in specific areas can resonate, Fuentes added, even if the president's rhetoric sometimes doesn't. And Fuentes even says, the president has his own style, but my line is he's been successful with it. And let's continue on. Let's see. Okay, now here was something interesting. So anyway, there's one lady from this liberal Orellana, the organizer for. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, this is important here. A recent poll of eligible Hispanic voters nationwide by the Democratic polling firm Latino Decisions found that only 13% say they definitely vote for Trump in 2020. Okay, fine. But there's also an enthusiasm gap for the other side. This is important. So, again, people aren't jumping them down by answering a poll question. Again, right, and you had 30% voted Republican in 2018. Now, watch this number. But there's also an enthusiasm gap for the other side. Less than 60% of respondents said they plan to participate in the Democratic primaries. Now, what does that tell you? Are these people who are not participating in the Democratic primary, are they going to vote Democrat in the general election? I mean, think about it for a second. I mean, this is a big election, 2020. I mean, it's all over the news. It's everywhere. Trump, Trump always puts it in the news. Trump. Oh my God, we got to get rid of Trump. Oh yeah. Less than 60% of respondents of Hispanic respondents nationwide said they plan to participate in Democratic primaries. So those people are going to vote Democrat? Why? They're not going to participate they're not going to have a say in who gets the Democratic nomination. That tells you something. In other words, they don't care who's going to get the Democratic nomination because they're not going to vote for that guy anyway. Okay? That's why. See, you got to read these stories. You can find some interesting little stuff here. Now, Orlana, the organizer, are for We Are Casa, which advocates for immigrant rights and has 100,000 members in Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania, says despite York being so heavily, watch this, watch what she says here. This is interesting. Says, despite York being so heavily Hispanic, she still sees plenty of people in Make America Great hats. 1/3 of the town, 1/3 of the city is Hispanic. Okay? And now she's not talking about, Anglos or black people wearing these hats. Because watch her next sentence. Okay? She goes on to say, I can't even, there we go, hold on. I can't even look them in the face, she says. Now, who's she talking about? She's talking about fellow Hispanics. I can't even look them in the face. It's like, how can you do that to your people? So here you got 1/3 of Hispanics in this town, and she says she still sees plenty of people in Make America Great hats, and she can't look them in the face saying, how can you do that to your people? She's talking about Hispanics. There are Hispanics in the city walking around with Make America Great hats on. Okay? That was worth reading NBC News just for that. That's amazing. Let me get a tissue here. That's amazing. So hey, there you go. And then this is from the Washington Times. Media nightmare. Black pro-Trump voters. Yeah, it's like the Washington Times writes this. Let's see. Man raises a sign black for Trump as President Trump speaks on June 27th in Fargo, North Dakota. Okay, this is from a year ago. Analysis opinion, what Charles Hurt. All right, so because President Trump is okay, so now obviously Charles Hurt's being sarcastic. Anybody knows Charlie Hurt? Anyway, this is Washington Times. So this is Charlie Hurt being sarcastic. Because President Trump is an alt-right, white supremacist, nationalist racist who wants to bring back slavery back in America, he dispatched a tweet proudly declaring a record support among black voters. New Fox poll shows a 40% approval rating by African Americans for President Trump, a record for Republicans. Thank you, a great honor, he writes in a tweet. See, the thing you don't understand about alt-right, and he's being sarcastic again, the thing you don't understand about alt-right, white supremacists, nationalist, racists, is that while their entire mission is to bring back slavery, they also really want to be popular among black voters. Such disgusting white privilege. And if you've ever been to a Trump rally, if you've seen him on TV, you'll see when he talks about lowest unemployment among Hispanic voters, not Hispanic voters, among Hispanic people in the country, lowest unemployment among African American people in the country in the history of the country. And everybody, out there, we all cheer. It's like, yeah, yay, woohoo, right? And again, Hispanic men have a lower unemployment rate than the national average. They're like at 2.1%. National is like 3.5, 3.6. So, everybody yells and screams. It's like, oh, all those terrible, evil people, the Trump rally, cheering for low unemployment among, African American and Latino people. And then it goes on to women. Yay, women, lowest unemployment since 1953. Veterans, lowest unemployment ever. Yay, we're all like cheering. So then he writes on, this is good. Such disgusting white privilege. Of course, the great white media immediately pounced on the proclamation and declared Mr. Trump's tweet a lie. Of course. So anyway, Trump invented the poll. It's 100% false, they said. It's unhinged. Okay. Actually, it was true. That was a Rasmussen poll he was citing, and we just talked about the polling. So there you go. Anyway, this is what the great white media has morphed into in the age of Trump. They simply refuse to focus on the substance of anything. They don't want to talk about the economy, America's disastrously broken immigration system, or any of the other serious issues that got Trump elected in the first place. No, they just want to talk about Trump's style. The tiniest misstatements get turned into a mountain of fake news. Oftentimes, there isn't even a misstatement at the foot of the mountain, just fake news. In this case, why did the great white media come so unglued? Because they are absolutely terrified that the Rasmussen poll is actually correct, or at least onto something. Right. They even heard Rasmussen pool might be a little bit too high, but at least this polling's onto something. In fact, there are numerous surveys, and of course we talked about some of them, that indicate Trump's popularity has improved significantly among black voters since he was elected. In August, a professor named Michael Tesla wrote about black voters for the Washington Post in a column bizarrely called, well, I'm not going to repeat that word. I guess you were allowed to do that sort of thing. Professor Tesla dismissed an earlier Rasmussen poll showing 36% as an outlier. Many critics have argued that Trump's attacks on the intelligence of some prominent African Americans, such as LeBron James, Don Lemon, and Maxine Waters, were rooted in racism. Magnol Newman has also made headlines, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's set aside the stupidity of this claim. What matters more to black voters? Goofball accusations from unserious people or the lowest black unemployment in history? As an American voter, I can tell you what matters more to me, and I know I am not alone. This is precisely why Democrats and the great white media are so stricken with fear today. This is why the Democrats and the media have cranked up their race baiting to its highest level ever. Trump's policies are actually working to make life better for all Americans, including black voters, Hispanic voters, Christians, Jews, Muslims, all other categories Democrats like to divide America into. If Mr. Trump can break down those false barriers and allow all voters to vote as Americans, rather than the racial group politicians put us all into, then America will, indeed, be greater for it. I totally agree. And here's a story from the National Review. Early alarm bell. This is again from October 8th of 2019. Early alarm bell for Democrats. This is from it's from the National Review. Oh, see, up there. National Review, way up there. Oh, you can't see it. It's covered up. But anyway, the National Review. Peter Kirsanov. Okay. Headline of the Hill, Trump is a new Hill-Harris poll. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. So it says 85%, but they said, hey, look, that black 15% support is astonishing given the lens of assertions by Democrats and mainstream media, blah, blah, blah. So looking at 32%, potentially prefer him over any Democratic candidate. So good story there. And let's see. And it's from the Wall Street Journal. This was from last year as well. Black voters, Trump's popularity inches upward. And let's see, we covered this story. We covered that story. We covered that story. We covered the Rasmussen poll. Oh, we covered all the stories in my hopper. But hey, there's more. What? You said there's more, Carl. There's more. What else are we covering tonight? Carl's opinion. Oh, I know. We got some impeachment stuff. I tell you what, we'll punch up the Trump rally. Let me just jump over here. It's a little bit of the Trump rally from that. Not all of it. Just a little bit of it. Let me just get over here. Where are we? Boom. Hey, there I am. Oh, wait. You don't have the phone number up or anything. Let me get that phone number up. There you go. Well, that's good enough. All right. So the email and also the phone number. So, okay, let's see here. So let me get to the, let's see. Let's get to the Trump rally. Let's play that one first. All right. So, okay, everybody, this is the Trump rally. And let's see. All right. From, I believe it was last night, wasn't it? Yeah, I think so. Hold on, let's see here.
Terrorists, the radical left, Democrats, is ripping our country apart. They're trying to overthrow American democracy and erase the votes of tens of millions of Americans. First it was the Russia hoax. Then it was the Mueller witch hunt. You remember that one? So far, much more than 100%, because it goes before the election ever took place. We've been going through this from before the election took place. A bunch of bad people. And then one of the single greatest lies ever told by anybody in this government, and I think one of the great scandals right from the beginning, all of the things that they've been doing. And now, the absolutely crazed lunatics, the Democrats, radical left, and their media partners standing right back there. Are pushing the deranged impeachment witch hunt for doing nothing wrong. Doing nothing wrong. You know, we did nothing wrong, and they're doing nothing. True. They haven't done a thing. Since Nancy Pelosi is Speaker, they haven't done a thing. But once again, their lies will be exposed, just like the last times. Their schemes are already unraveling. You saw yesterday. How about when they asked these two never-Trumpers, what exactly do you think you impeach him for? And they stood there and went like, what? But they're unraveling, and their sinister plans will fail. They've already failed as far as I'm concerned. In fact, so as I'm getting out of that beautiful airplane.
And this is actually pretty good here when he does when he reads the headline. So let's go. Let's listen to this. Hold on.
Air Force One, it is a beautiful plane. This just came out. Big story. New remarks from top Ukrainian official damages Democrats' impeachment narrative. Just came out. I only read it because they don't like to report stories like this. You know about that. Because we're fighting the Democrats, but much more difficult to fight is the fake news, I'm telling you. And they're a partnership. I call them a partnership made in hell. Here it is. Ukrainian foreign minister said on Thursday, listen to this though, and they won't even want to report it, because it ends it. It ends it. It's all about that. Ukrainian foreign minister said on Thursday that the United States ambassador did not link financial military assistance to a request for Ukraine to open up an investigation. Former vice president and current Democratic president, can you believe? Like, we need help to beat Sleepy Joe Biden? I don't think so.
And you know, he always wants to say creepy Joe Biden, but he can't say creepy Joe Biden because they'd be like, oh, what are you trying to say? But let me tell you something. He's right, because if this guy, hold on, let me put this down. You know, this guy ever got the nomination, Joe Biden, I mean, the hit pieces on him would be through the roof as far as, you know, as far as all his little, I mean, go to YouTube, look up Joe Biden, you know, creepy Joe Biden on YouTube, you'll see all the touching and weirdness, and it's really strange. It's really odd. It's really weird. But anyway, yeah, you'd see all that. So there you go. But anyway, so let's go and continue on with this.
You know, last election, by the way, I hate to say this, but now I have a lot of experience, because experience is important. But talent is more important than experience, right? But I had no experience. Last election, we took down the Bush dynasty. It's okay. With no experience. Bush dynasty. Then we took down the Clinton dynasty. Then we took down the very crooked Obama group. So we took down Bush, Clinton, Obama, with no experience, but I had you, and we won. So think about that, and then think about me. Gee, let's get some help from Ukraine in order to beat Sleepy Joe Biden. I don't think so. So, just to finish this up, So there was nothing, no link, no nothing to presidential candidate Sleepy Joe Biden. I added the word sleepy, because this is a serious deal here. And his son, Hunter Biden. Hunter, where's Hunter? What happened to Hunter? I think he made more money than anybody in history for somebody with absolutely no talent or experience. He's #1 in the world. Okay, the ambassador did not tell us, and certainly did not tell me, about a connection between the assistance and the investigation. Never said. In other words, nothing happened. I have never seen a direct relationship between the investigations and security assistance. So they have said now nothing happened. And yet, you don't even read this. Now, it only came out a little while ago, in all fairness. I'll give him a chance. Can you report this tonight and tomorrow, please? So...
But yeah, that's yeah, he's right though. I mean, I haven't seen any reporting on that from mainstream media today. That article that came out last night, that hasn't been out there. So hold on, put this back down. Yeah, so I mean, he's right about that. There hasn't been any reporting on it today. This was last night when he did this story. No reporting on it today whatsoever. So. But he has a good point. But anyway, Devin Nunes kind of yesterday, he did a pretty good job. He did a good job on Wednesday too, but he did a pretty good job on. Actually, I think this is Ms. Harmonic I have here. So let's take a look at her. And this is from yesterday's hearing when she was talking to Ambassador Yovanovitch. So let's take a look at this.
Before I was interrupted, I wanted to thank you for your 30 years of public service, from Mogadishu to Ottawa to Moscow to London to Kyiv. I also wanted to thank you for hosting the numerous bipartisan delegations. I led one of those delegations in Ukraine. My questions today will focus on 3 key themes. The first is the role of the President when it comes to appointing our ambassadors. The second is long-standing corruption in Ukraine. And the third is aid to Ukraine. Earlier this week, as you know, we heard from George Kent, and I know that Mr. Kent is a colleague, a friend, and someone who you deeply respect. In his testimony, he stated, all ambassadors serve the pleasure of the President. You would agree with that statement, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, he elaborated and went on to emphasize that this is without question. Everybody understands that. You would agree with that?
I would agree with that.
And in your own deposition under oath, you stated, quote, although I understand, everyone understands that I serve at the pleasure of the President. Is that correct?
Yes.
And just so there's no public confusion, you are still an employee of the State Department, correct?
Yes.
And in the deposition, you say that you personally asked whether it would be possible to be a fellow at Georgetown University, and that was arranged for me, and I'm very grateful. That's where you're posted today, correct?
Yes.
Georgetown students are lucky to have you. We are lucky to have you in Foreign Service, and I again want to thank you for your tremendous public service. Shifting gears to corruption in Ukraine, in your powerful deposition, you described, quote, we have long understood that strong anti-corruption efforts must form an essential part of our policy in Ukraine, and now there is a window of opportunity to do that. And so why is this important, and why is this important to us? Put simply, anti-corruption efforts serve Ukraine's interests, but they also serve ours as well. Is that still your testimony?
Yes.
And particularly at the critical time in 2014, after the Ukrainian elections, you testified that the Ukrainian people had made clear in that very election that they were done with corruption. Correct?
Yes.
And you also testified that the Ukrainians thought it would be a good idea to set up this architecture of a special investigative office that would be all about the crimes of corruption, correct?
Yes.
And I know this was before.
Yeah, this is actually Ms. Stefanik, from Republican from New York. I thought she did a great job on Wednesday, and she did a really good job yesterday as well. So let's continue listening to her.
Before you arrived in Ukraine, but you are aware that the first case that the US, UK, and Ukraine investigators worked on was in fact against the owner of Burisma.
Yes.
and that was during the Obama administration.
Yes.
And in your testimony, you said today, the investigation was never formally closed because, quote, it's frankly useful to keep that company hanging on a hook, right? That's your quote.
Yeah, the Ukrainian investigation was never closed.
Partnered with the U.S. and the UK.
As I understand it. Yeah, although because we didn't see the Ukrainians moving forward on that, we no longer partner with them on that case or in that way.
But let's take a step back. The first time you personally became aware of Burisma was actually when you were being prepared by the Obama State Department for your Senate confirmation hearings. And this was in the form of practice questions and answers. This was your deposition. And you testified that in this particular practice Q&A with the Obama State Department, it wasn't just generally about Burisma and corruption, it was specifically about Hunter Biden and Burisma. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And the exact quote from your testimony, Ambassador, is, quote, the way the question was phrased in this model Q&A was, what can you tell us about Hunter Biden's, being named to the board of Burisma? So for the millions of Americans watching, President Obama's own State Department was so concerned about potential conflicts of interest from Hunter Biden's role at Burisma that they raised it themselves while prepping this wonderful ambassador nominee before her confirmation. And yet our Democratic colleagues and the chairman of this committee cry foul when we dare ask that same question that the Obama State Department was so concerned about. But we will continue asking it. And lastly, in my 20 seconds left, I just want to get it on record. In terms of defensive lethal aid, which you were an advocate for, that was not provided by President Obama. It was provided by President Trump.
That's correct.
Yeah, I thought she made a couple of really good points there. In other words, when they were prepping her, for questions she might get asked. Hold on, let me bring this down. For questions she might get asked, after she got for getting confirmed and stuff, they were concerned about Hunter Biden's role and with Burisma and the corruption and everything else. So that was the Obama administration. They even did like a mock Q&A with her prior to her getting asked any questions, concerned that she might get asked a few questions. So I mean that's pretty indicative right there. And so when they say, that's what I was saying, is like it's not a question of why are they investing in the Bidens, because I covered this a couple of videos ago. If you want to get the whole complete picture of the corruption that was going on in the Ukraine with the 2016 election, you have to go back to 2014 and 2015, and then obviously into 2016. You can't just start at 2016. You won't see the whole picture. You'll miss a lot. Well, the whole thing started with, with Hunter Biden and the Ukrainians thinking like, okay, we're going to put this guy, he's going to be on the board. We're going to get help from the vice president. And, and if we curry favor, then we're going to get good things are going to happen to us. So, and obviously they were thinking Clinton was going to win. So they were trying to curry favor with Clinton by, helping the Clinton campaign against Trump. You had a Democratic operative, Alexandra Chalupa, working for DNC, meeting with Ukrainian officials, meeting with the Ukrainian staff members of the Ukrainian embassy. She was meeting with the whistleblower herself at the White House, in the Obama White House, while all this was going on. So, I mean, all these issues are important and they have to be discussed. And it has to start with Hunter Biden working for Burisma, getting paid, $50,000 a month and change, working for Burisma as a member of the board of directors. So actually, I think I do have Devin Nunes' thing here. Let me see if this is it right here. But Devin Nunes this is a good summary of what the whole problem with this whole impeachment inquiry is. He did a summary on Wednesday, but this summary he did yesterday, I think was really good. I think this is him. Let's take a look.
Thank the gentleman. It's unfortunate that today and for most of next week we will continue engaging in the Democrats' day-long TV spectacles instead of solving the problems we were all sent to Washington to address. We now have a major trade agreement with Canada and Mexico ready for approval, a deal that would create jobs and boost our economy. Meanwhile, we have not yet approved funding for the government, which expires next week, along with funding for our men and women in uniform. Instead, the Democrats have convened us once again to advance their operation to topple a duly elected president. I'll note that five Democrats on this committee had already voted to impeach this president before the Trump-Zelensky phone call occurred. In fact, Democrats have been vowing to oust President Trump since the day he was elected. So Americans can rightly suspect that his phone call with President Zelensky was used as an excuse for the Democrats to fulfill their Watergate fantasies. But I'm glad that on Wednesday, after the Democrats staged 6 weeks of secret depositions in the basement of the Capitol, like some kind of strange cult, the American people finally got to see this farce for themselves. They saw us sit through hours of hearsay testimony about conversations that two diplomats who had never spoken to the president heard secondhand, third-hand, and fourth-hand from other people. In other words, rumors. The problem of trying to overthrow a president based on this type of evidence is obvious. But that's what their whole case relies on, beginning with second-hand and third-hand information cited by the whistleblower. That's why on Wednesday, the Democrats were forced to make the absurd argument that hearsay can be much better evidence than direct evidence.
Yeah, when I heard that, a lot of you know I've been a practicing attorney for over 25 years, trial attorney, won a lot of trials, jury trials, bench trials, etc. When I heard that one Democrat congressman say, well, actually, hearsay evidence can be better than direct evidence, there wasn't a lawyer in the entire country that didn't just go, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you just said that out loud. You just literally said that out loud. And of course it's not. I mean, there are exceptions. You have to have exceptions to the hearsay rule for it to even come in, and there's all kinds of exceptions. But you just hearsay. The definition of hearsay is an out-of-court statement used to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So it's an out-of-court statement used to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So if you're asserting that Trump, quid pro quo, then if somebody overheard somebody say that Trump said something, well, you're trying to use that as an out-of-court statement. It's not in court. Nobody's testifying to it and saying, I heard this guy say, I heard this guy say something. Then, of course, in this case, we've had double hearsay, triple hearsay, quadruple hearsay. Every trial attorney knows those objections. Like when you get at least double hearsay, you jump up. That's double hearsay. And the judge is like, yeah, what are you trying to do? Why are you embarrassing me? Why are you trying to make... Why are you trying to get that in? And, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've ever made an objection in any trial or preliminary hearing I've ever done where it was quadruple hearsay, and that was that one conversation regarding Sondland and Taylor and Morris the other day. Interesting thing about Morris, this came up today. I didn't pull an article up on it, but Morris is Bolton's assistant, and they released his transcript. He's a big, tall guy. I've ever seen him on the news. He's like 8 foot tall, and but anyway. He testified it was against the wishes of the Trump administration, but actually it was actually pretty good because one of the things he said was, I heard the phone, like Vindman said, okay, I wanted this in and they didn't let it come in. Well, this was the guy who was actually one of the guys who was listening in that was in charge of, transcribing that phone call. And he goes, and Vindman gave him a bunch of things to edit, to add in or take away. So according to Morris, he goes, Vindman came to me and said, I want this and I want that and I want, whatever in. And he goes, I put in everything he wanted me to put in. So he's coming back now and saying, oh, well, actually this was said, that was said. He goes, look, everything this guy asked me to put in, I put in for him, which is why you haven't seen Vindman publicly testify. He probably won't be called as a witness because Morris's statement just totally, contradicted what he said. And plus Vindman came out publicly this week and he said one of the things he testified to in closed deposition was that he believed it was Obama that sent the Javelin anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. No, it was actually Trump that did it first. President Obama never sent any lethal defense weapons to Ukraine. And then another thing that was funny about Morris, the Democrats were hailing Morris as, oh, he's willing to come and testify, he's going to slam Trump. And he says, I'm the one who asked that it be put in a confidential location. And the reason what he said was, he goes, I figured in such a partisan divided town, the phone call would be taken out of context and people might want to try to use it to say we're not supporting Ukraine. And so that was him he that did that. So anyway, that's kind of funny. But anyway, so that's why, they were begging for Morris's transcript to be released, and of course Schiff didn't want to release it because, well, it didn't say what Schiff wanted it to say. And then, of course, his woman today, Jennifer Lawrence, said, oh, no, I heard him talking about Burisma. Well, I guess she was like the only one. Okay, so and she's got her own issues. State Department loyalist, and snuck her way into Pence's office and blah blah blah. And remember, Pence had that rule: no meeting with women alone. Boy, I'm glad he kept that rule up, just for because if she had met with him alone, she could have said, "Well, I talked to Pence, and Pence said the following," because she obviously lied about the phone call because nobody else has that recollection except for her. So she probably would have lied about something, if Pence would have had a conversation with her. But let's continue on with Mr. Nunes here. Oh, by the way, I did want to jump on here. I was looking at the chat. Real good, intelligent chat tonight. Thanks a lot, guys. Philip, great informer. Keely, Solex. Yeah, I saw what you guys were saying coming down the pipe there. Agree with. I was going to write agree, but I'll just say agree. But let me just take a look real quick here. Back it up a little bit. It was. Yeah, it was really. I mean, I was about to agree with like everything you guys said in there. So excellent job on that. So all right, so let's go ahead and get back to Mr. Nunes here.
And just when you thought the spectacle couldn't get more bizarre, committee Republicans received a memo from the Democrats threatening ethics referrals if we out the whistleblower. With Democrats, not with Republicans. Chairman Schiff claimed not to know who it is, yet he also vowed to block us from asking questions that could reveal his or her identity. Republicans on this committee are left wondering how it's even possible for the chairman to block questions about a person whose identity he claims not to know. The American people may be seeing these absurdities for the first time, but Republicans on this dais are used to them. Until they secretly met with the whistleblower, Democrats showed little interest for the last 3 years in any topic aside from the ridiculous conspiracy theories that President Trump is a Russian agent. When you find yourself on the phone, like the Democrats did with Russian pranksters offering you nude pictures of Trump, and afterward you order your staff to follow up and get the photos, as the Democrats also did, then it might be time to ask yourself if you've gone out too far on a limb. Even as they were accusing Republicans of colluding with Russians, the Democrats themselves were colluding with Russians by funding the Steele dossier, which was based on Russian and Ukrainian sources. Meanwhile, they turn a blind eye to Ukrainians meddling in our elections because the Democrats were cooperating with that operation. This was the subject of a July 20th, 2017 letter sent by Senator Grassley to then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. The letter raised concerns about the activities of Alexander Chalupa, a contractor for the Democratic National Committee, who worked with Ukrainian embassy officials to spread dirt on the Trump campaign. As Senator Grassley wrote, Chalupa's actions appear to show that she was simultaneously working on behalf of a foreign government, Ukraine, and on behalf of the DNC and the Clinton campaign in an effort to influence not only the U.S. voting population, but U.S. government officials, unquote. After touting the Steele dossier and defending the FBI's Russia investigation, which are now being investigated by Inspector General Horowitz and Attorney General Barr, Democrats on this committee ignore Ukrainian election meddling, even though Chalupa publicly admitted to the Democrats' scheme. Likewise, they are blind to the blaring signs of corruption surrounding Hunter Biden's well-paid position on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian company, while his father served as vice president and point man for Ukraine issues in the Obama administration. But the Democrats' media hacks only cared about that issue briefly, when they were trying to stop Joe Biden from running against Hillary Clinton in 2015. As I previously stated, these hearings should not be occurring at all until we get the answers to three crucial questions the Democrats refuse to ask. First, what is the full extent of the Democrats' prior coordination with the whistleblower, and who else did the whistleblower coordinate this effort with? Second, What is the full extent of Ukraine's election meddling against the Trump campaign? And third, why did Burisma hire Hunter Biden? What did he do for them? And did his position affect any government actions under the Obama administration? I'll note that House Democrats vowed they would not put the American people through a wrenching impeachment process without bipartisan support, and they have none. Add that to their ever-growing list of broken promises and destructive deceptions. In closing, Mr. Chair, the President of the United States released his transcript right before the hearing began. I think it's important that I read this into the record so that there's no confusion over this first phone call that occurred on April 21st with President-elect Zelensky, and I'd like to read it.
All right, and so I'm not going to sit here and make you guys listen to the next 4 minutes because it takes about 4 minutes for him to read the whole phone call into the record. But suffice it to say that, and let me just jump over here. Let me get myself off twice. You can see me twice. If you can't get enough of Carl's opinion, you get two Carl's opinions. Hey, Carl's opinion. All right. Let me bring it down a little bit here. All right. So anyway, basically I'll listen to the whole phone call he read out. It just says, hey, how you doing? Hey, great job. Hey, you're a great guy. You're a great guy. No, you're a great guy. Hey, you're a great guy. Well, anyway, everybody's a great guy. So didn't mention anything about investigations. Didn't mention anything about Biden. Didn't mention anything about Burisma. Nothing. But the funny thing what Nunes said there was, okay, I'm going to read it into the record because I don't want there to be any confusion. In other words, he didn't want Schiff to read the transcript into the record. The last time Schiff read what he said was a transcript, he made up all this phony BS. So that was kind of a slap at Schiff there when he did that, which is fine with me. You can slap him down all he wants. So that was good. And I see Great Informer said he was going to be calling in. So I would say, Great Informer, call in because that was the last video I have to say. So let me see. I'll tell the Great Informer calls in. I'm going to pull up some more interesting stories here. So let's see if I can grab a hold of one for you guys. Let's see. I'm sure there was something I saw that was interesting that I pulled up. That's me scrolling down my list of stories. It's like a whole bunch. Let's see. Like, oh, shit. It's about 120 up there. So let's see here. Here's a good story. This one I think you'll like. Let's see. A little bigger. All right. Let's jump over here. Let me bring it down a little bit. There we go. All right. Jobs at risk as China's services sector feels heat of trade war. So this is the wonderful trade war President Trump has been engaged in with China, which somebody had to do finally. $500 billion trade deficit. Not good. Not good, as Trump would say, not good. And so China is feeling heat. You know, we've picked up millions of jobs since Trump's been elected president. They've lost about 3 million jobs since the trade war began about a year ago. 3 million jobs. Okay, they're supposed to be growing. They've lost about 3 million. So anyway, let's take a look at this story here. This is excellent. It's from Newsmax. Jobs at risk as China's services sector feels heat of trade war. Annual profits at China's Ningbo S-Power International Logistics Company are down a sharp 40% year-on-year, and export orders have also fallen at a similarly dizzying rate. The firm's woes highlight a bigger problem for the world's second-largest economy and its stability-obsessed leaders. The intensifying pressure on employment as a structural slowdown in the once booming services sector is exacerbated by the protracted Sino-U.S. trade war. Ta-da! The simultaneous downturn in the services and manufacturing industries poses a daunting challenge for authorities seeking to keep a lid on unemployment and prevent social unrest as economic growth slumps to near 3-decade lows. Economic growth slumping to lowest in 30 years. 30 years. Think about that. That's why Trump says, look, I want to make a deal, but not that much. They need to make a deal more than us. Why? Because with those tariffs, there are a lot of countries in Southeast Asia and Africa and Mexico, Central America, South America are very happy about the China trade war right now. Because like Vietnam's like, hey, man, we're open for business. We got factories ready to go. India's like, hey, man, buy stuff from us. We'll build stuff for you. Mexico's like, hey, we'll do it. Now, like I've always said, I'd rather everything be made inside the United States. But if that's not a possibility, then the best second alternative would be buy stuff from Mexico. They're right next door to us. They're our next door neighbor. We have a relationship with them for like 200 years. They're not 6,000 miles, around the world, if you will, 8,000 miles across the Pacific. So, I say buy it from them. That's my personal opinion. So I think that's what we should do. So anyway, but yeah, so if you see here, this is actually, let's see what's going on. Let me try that. There we go. Maybe that'll do it. Because notice if I'm coming in kind of hot, somebody let me know. Say, hey man, you're coming in kind of hot. But it looks like my line's showing me I'm coming in kind of hot. So I don't know what to do with that actually. But nonetheless, so like I said, if we're gonna buy stuff from somewhere, I say, hey, here's the great informer right now. So hold on. Hey, great informer, how you doing?
What's up, Carl? How you doing? How is everything? Oh, I know it's a little late. Sorry, I just tried to check to see if you were going live, and I just got done, But hey, get the message out, just go live whenever you can. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, actually, yeah, I'm going live probably I'm going to be going on probably around 8:30. That's my time. I'm going to try to designate. So everybody, it's not really fair to the people viewing if they don't know what time I'm coming on. So I'm going to try to be going on, when I do come on between 8 and 8:30 at night. So it'll that's when you'll be able to catch me. That's Pacific time, obviously. So I'd be between 11 and 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. But yeah, so hey, what do you think of the stories today? You think Trump can pick up a good chunk of the black vote, a good chunk of the Hispanic and Latino vote?
Yeah. I think it's great. I mean, I don't know if you know who John Mark is. There was an interesting video that John Mark had done, and it's definitely worth a watch. Now, I don't agree with everything he says, but he brings up some good points. Like, he was talking about kind of like the Civil War in the within the right, like on our side, right? But it's something nobody's really ever talked about. What he was talking about was how again, I don't agree with everything he says, but in some of the things he's talking about, it's like, well, how are we going to do this option when there's no other option, right? You know what I'm saying? But what he was talking about was how the grassroots right isn't going to, say, even if Trump wins in 2020, the grassroots right will not win any more won't win any more elections because of the way the demographics are changing, because of the way that many, let's face it, most people who come into the country and become, they go through the process of becoming, citizen, they still vote 70% Democrat. And I think now what he was talking about was how you have the likes of Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, who believe that, he likes the work they're doing. He was talking, it wasn't knocking them down, right? But, he's like, they say, of the mindset that Charlie Kirk, people like Charlie Kirk, who are the, what do they call them, the fiscal conservatives, right?
Right.
That believe that we can still absorb people legally and still, in our Western civilization can still survive, right? But I don't agree with him necessarily on that. Like, number one, right? How are you going to stop, letting people come into the country, right? It isn't going to happen, right? People want controlled immigration. I get it. I don't, we all kind of want people to come on a merit-based system. Now, the other thing he was talking about is, and he's right. You know, it's very hard for conservatives to break through the mindset and the conditioning of the left in how they've, you know, basically instilled this anti-capitalist idea, and how all white people are evil and yada yada, you know. And I mean, he's talking about like on those that have an overwhelmingly long history of voting Democrat, right? And he's right in that regard, you know. Now, what I don't agree with him on, I don't know if you saw the video or not. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it was a very good video, right? And basically, what I don't agree with him is that, like, what are his alternatives, right? Because number one, we got to live in the reality of we're in, right? And people like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens have the best chance at swaying people to vote more for candidates who are going to be more conservative and preserve our Constitution and preserve our, you know, our freedoms, you know, you know what I'm saying? So in that regard, you know, I have to kind of like, I mean, I get what he's saying, I understand what he's saying, but that's not the reality of the world we're living in. You know, the reality is that, see, he was calling it the winning right and the losing right, right?
Yeah.
And the winning right is what he says are like the conservatives, like the social and fiscal conservatives. I'm sorry, the social conservatives who want shut down immigration. You know, I'm sorry, that I don't. You know, number one, I don't agree with that entirely. Now, I understand we got to take care of America first.
Well, no. Well, first of all, who wants to shut down immigration?
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I don't know anybody who wants to shut down immigration.
Huh?
I don't know anybody who says we have to shut down immigration. We have to shut down illegal immigration. You don't fall into the trap like the Democrats set up for us. Yeah. The Democrats set up that trap. They always try to, you know, obfuscate, you know, immigration with illegal immigration. And we need immigration. Nobody said we have to continue to grow. Yeah. We like growing. We're a big country. We make a lot of money. That's good. We have low unemployment. We need people to work. But nobody wants to shut down immigration. We just don't want illegal immigration, and we want to be able to structure what immigrants we need. Like, for instance, like when all this, you know, computer stuff comes online and people no longer have jobs at McDonald's, well, you probably don't need as many unskilled workers. You know, farming is actually increasing right now. Farming output's increasing, so we probably need more. You know, they have those special H-1, not B-1 visas. They just did a deal with Guatemala. We're going to bring a bunch of migrant farmers up with special, like, H-1 visas to come up seasonal to work because we need more people up here. So they just did that deal with Guatemala. Yeah. But I mean, no, nobody wants to shut down immigration. Well, if somebody's saying it, I haven't been on that site where somebody says we have to shut down immigration. I haven't been there. So have you been hearing anything?
No, he was. Yeah. No. He was like, I mean, what he was talking about was like the winning right, the losing right, right? Like where you have those on the winning right who are like more like the hardline conservatives, like, you know, the ones that want to shut down our borders. They want America. You know, I mean, that was my interpretation of when I saw that video, right? And I've seen it a couple of times so I could try to get a better understanding of it when I first saw it, right? But you know, but at the same time, I get what a lot of people are saying, because, you know, like how they say, well, many Americans won't do the jobs that many migrants do. That's true to some extent as well, because, you know, I remember reading articles about Americans who were, now I don't know if they're true or not. I came across them like a couple of years ago, right, where Americans were working in the fields and they were picking apples, and they were just, you know, like some of them were walking off the job because they didn't like it. It was too hot. They were complaining about working conditions. And I'm like, but see, many of the migrants who take those jobs usually don't complain about the work conditions because they're happy to do the work, you know. And there is some truth to, I mean, maybe, I don't know how much truth, but I know that there is some truth to that the migrants, like especially those who work in the farms, those who work in the not the fast food industry or anything like that, but, you know, like working. I won't say construction, but, you know, just basic overall farm handling, farm jobs. You know.
Yeah, like jobs like
they're
that.
They're willing to do that kind. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
No, I was.
You know,
I was.
they're
I,
willing
I was
to do the work that many Americans won't do. You know, and you know they kind of help keep prices low in the grocery stores. You know, because I mean, obviously they're not. They're probably in. I mean, I don't. You know, what we see as harsh work conditions, they may not because they're more used to probably having nothing. You know, or
yeah. I mean,
working.
the conditions the conditions where they came from, are far worse than what we have here inside the United States. So yeah, so I mean, they'll
Yeah.
work, in. Well, I mean, look, first of all, harsh conditions. Anybody who's ever worked outside in the, farming or anything like that. I mean, those are harsh conditions. In Southern California, it's hot, it's miserable. The Imperial Valley, Central Valley, it's hot, it's miserable. I mean, it's just hot and miserable. People think Southern California, they think California like San Diego and the beach. Well, those farming areas like Imperial County is way east of anything close to the ocean. And the Central Valley, California, Fresno, Bakersfield, it gets hotter than hell there in the summer. I mean, it gets like 105, it's miserable. So, I mean, it's pretty nasty sitting out there all day long, bent over, picking stuff off the ground, or even like a friend of mine I worked with in construction when he was a kid, he worked picking strawberries, and he said it was awful because by the end of the day, in the morning it was okay, but then when it got hot, when you're picking the strawberries, some of the juice will get on your hands, and by the end of the day, it's running down your arm. You'd be like tying your shirt up to keep it from dripping down your arm. You'd be all sticky and stuff, and couldn't really do anything about it. It was pretty miserable. So I mean, I mean, it's they're. No, but we produce a lot of farm products. We import farm products from Mexico. Don't get me wrong, but we produce a lot here in this country. I mean, again, the Imperial Valley and Central Valley, California, for fruits and all kinds of wonderful things. I mean, we produce a lot of it. So, but we need workers and stuff. We just got to make sure they're not illegal because see, when they're illegal, we don't want anybody being mistreated. Now, if you're illegal, then they can really treat you bad because then they'll say, "Oh, you don't like the working conditions? Oh, what's that phone number for ICE? Let me call them." They get taken advantage of. So if they're legal, they're on a green card status or it's like an H-1 visa, like we're doing the deal from not H-1, it might be H-8, I don't know, visa from Guatemala. Then they can't be taken advantage of because they say, well, no, you can't take advantage of me. I'm legal, so screw you. Sorry, buddy, it's not going to happen. So no, I mean, but I mean, anybody says we don't need immigration, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's just stupid. We need immigration. We just look. Here's the deal. Like I said, we need to get it set up so that we raise the level where on asylum right now it's called like credible fear. That gets you in the door, gets you at least to be able to stay here, albeit now you have to stay in Mexico. Thank you, Mexico, very much. But anyway, you have to stay in Mexico, and now we have safe third country agreements with Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador as well. Thank you very much. And so, but right now we have that credible fear thing. It's like if you show a credible fear, well, they need to raise the burden on that a little bit higher to get it where like it's more than just a credible fear. So we can fix that. We can like build a wall. Definitely got to build a wall. Keep people out. But then we can sit there and say, okay, now how many people do we need? And we'll have congressional hearings. You bring in people from the chamber, people from this group, that group, whatever group, and different ranchers and employers, and the people talk about AI and computers and stuff, and say, okay, how many skilled workers? Okay, then you set a number. You say, okay, we need 500,000 unskilled workers. We need 500,000 computer technicians. We need 500,000 middle skilled workers. We need 500,000, college-educated people, high school graduates, whatever, and then you come up with a number, and that number is what you bring in every year, period, and end of story. And then you raise the asylum claim requirements higher, and that keeps out the deadbeats and the phony asylum claims, and then you can take regular refugees, some people, some asylum people. You don't have to have a big number. We're not the world's, asylum house. Let somebody go somewhere else. But, and then whatever that number is, that's our number. And then it's good for our economy, it's good for us, and who we are.
Your voice sounds very distant. I can hear you, but is it? Hold on, maybe it's my phone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me better now? I just turned my volume up going to you. How's that?
Okay, that's better. Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, it's, it's like, I was watching, it's like all these videos that talk about the decline in the West and all this stuff, I don't think it's declining, it's just evolving. Like, I mean, Trump has changed world economics, and he's changing it where it's benefiting you know, most, I mean, all, you know, it's benefiting those that are experiencing it. You know, I mean, you still have China going into South America. You know, China's investing heavily in businesses with South America. That's going to make it hard for us to, you know, who knows how hard it's going to make us to do business with them once the Chinese get, you know, the Chinese Communist Party gets their hands in, you know, the loans and all the policy, you know, and, you know, these companies, they can't afford to pay China back. Those countries are taking money from China, and China, you know, they know
Oh no,
that,
yeah,
that they
that's total.
can't.
That's a total scam. They now own those countries and they know it. So and they're
Yeah,
not the World Bank.
yeah,
You know, they're like China. You owe us money, pay
yeah,
us. Kind of like in that movie Goodfellas.
yeah,
You know, you can't pay me. You're late or something. Screw you, pay me. Screw you, pay me. You know.
yeah.
So basically, what we're going to say is like, okay, oh, you can't pay us back on that loan. I tell you what, we see you got some mines over there, but it's owned by this guy, and he won't sell it to us. We need you to go over there and lean on him and make him sell these mines to us for like $1, and we'll forgive like this month's interest rate payment or this year's payment. And then of course, what's going to happen? So eventually, China's going to own all these countries, anything they want. They're farmland. They're buying a lot of the land they're buying in Africa is farmland because again, Africa grow anything. I mean, poof, you know, add water, it grows.
Yep.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And so they're buying a lot of farmland up because they don't want to keep buying farm products from us. Understandable. They want to get them on the cheap
Yep.
and then get them on the cheap from Africa, much cheaper than buying from us. It's much closer. Also, if you think about it, you know, if you bring it. You know, they're building rail lines and everything. I mean, they're trying to own Africa. And what was it called?
Yep.
The African Free Union Trade Agreement, I think it was called. That was written by Chinese attorneys. Okay, the Chinese wrote that agreement for the African Free Trade Agreement for all the number like 50 African countries signed onto it. That was written by China. They wrote the legal language in there. So go figure. Yeah, they're planning on owning Africa. That's going to be they want it big time. There's plenty of Congo's got all those rare minerals that are used for cell phones and military equipment, transistors. You know, the farmland we talked about. You know, all kinds of other mining things, gold, diamonds, you name it. So oil, a lot of oil over there, right in Africa as well. So yeah, so no, I agree with you. They're loaning this money knowing there's no way they can pay them back, but they're going to get paid one way or the other. It's just that they may not get paid in cash, but they'll get paid like in you know, natural resources of the country. You know, or we're having, hey, oh, you can't pay us this month. Hey, these workers are complaining that we're treating them too harshly. We need you to go over there with your military, and a lot of these are semi-dictator countries anyway. We need you to go over there with your military and lean on these workers because we're tired of this BS. So you just take care of that. We'll forgive this month's interest payment. How's that? Okay, bam.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised too if, like, you know, like these African leaders who are behind the seizure of white Afrikaners' lands. I mean, they were seizing. It's still going on, in my understanding, that they were seizing white people's lands without any kind of compensation. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chinese Communist Party were funding campaigns of these African leaders who were doing this. You know, helping them get elected to office, so they could get those fertile lands out there. Well, guess what? Yeah, you know, many Africans don't know how to work those lands. I mean, some of them do, but they've had instruction from the Afrikaners on how to do it, and there's not enough like actual black Africans that have the knowledge and skill to farm those lands. But obviously, the Chinese do. I mean, you know, they bring in agriculture. They bring in those.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I mean, China's been farming in harsh conditions, you know, for thousands of years. I mean, China. I mean, you know, they've been farming in China for thousands of years. They know how to farm in harsh conditions. They know about, you know, irrigation and all that stuff. They know, just like the Vietnamese know about it, the people in Thailand and Cambodia. They know about all that. They know about, you know, they know how to get the water, you know, to the crops and, you know, and then how to move the crops around. Because, you know, like in Vietnam, like some of those lands they've been growing rice on for, you know, like 1,000 years without, you know, taking all the nutrients out of it because they know how to rotate the crops and all that. Yeah, the Chinese know all that stuff. I mean, shoot, yeah. Yeah, they'll go over there and they'll increase farm production in Africa like who knows how many fold, 5-fold, 10-fold, 20-fold, who knows.
I put out a post today about the Chinese Liberation Army going into Hong Kong, and you know what they're doing is, some articles had well, they're just going out there to clean up the debris. They're doing this. Now, you know what they're doing? They're quietly positioning the Liberation Army to, like say, because we all know that the Chinese Communist Party has people within these protesters that, that they pay, the actors that they pay to, stir up violence, stir up, attacks on businesses and, disrupt, just day-to-day, communicate, just day-to-day living, right? And these people, in my opinion, China is trying to, they're trying to seize Hong Kong quietly under the presumption of, well, we got to restore law and order, right? Because Hong Kong, I believe, they want the two separate system of government. They have a Western. I think the British wrote it for them. Well, they have like a constitution that guarantees them similar to our Bill of Rights. And there's a lot of especially the younger Chinese or those some of the more younger Hong Kong citizens of Hong Kong. They want to keep their rights. They don't want to do anything. They don't want anything to do with mainland China. And I think this one lady got what was it? She suspended legislation. I think that what was it? Some kind of legislation that would allow China to come in and quell something of that nature, I believe. But in my opinion, China's putting boots on the ground right now to solidify the grip on Hong Kong, because if they can control Hong Kong's capital, and if they can just dissolve that democratic government and install a communist, a puppet government basically in Hong Kong, China's going to have access to all of Hong Kong's capital, all of Hong Kong's resources, all of, China's going to be a force to reckon with if they bring Hong Kong in, if they absorb it into the communist, into the communist regime. It's
right.
What they're doing is they're growing their economy. They're trying to become a world power by expanding, their grip on other countries, other nations, and surprisingly, China's going to control the EU here pretty soon, because a lot of these Western countries are indebted to China. During the 2008, whatever you want to call it, Great Recession, stock market crash, and China was lending money out to, thank God our banking system is not tied into the European banking system like it was back then when that happened. But, we still have, I don't know how much ties we have with the Asian financial markets, but China's controlling a lot of the Asian capital, around the world, and it's only going to get bigger.
Right.
It's China's.
Well,
China's,
these tariffs are really hurting them right now. So if they want to keep this going, this control going, they're going to have to come. They're going to have to come to the table with Trump. They like that extra $500 billion a year in trade deficit. That's where they're using all that money to build up the military and also to settle all these different lands in Africa and everywhere else. But right now they're starting to, it's affecting them. 3 million. We've increased millions of jobs in this country since Trump's been elected. They've lost 3 million jobs since 2018. 3 million jobs since 2018. They have a huge labor force, but still they're not supposed to be losing jobs. Okay, they have the worst growth rate in 30 years. 30 years. 30 years ago that was the start of Bill Clinton getting them in most favored trading status. Not Bill Clinton, H.W. Bush. So there you go, right there. So since before H.W. Bush sold us out, and then Clinton sold us out, and then his son George W. Bush sold us out, and President Obama sold us out. They've had the worst growth rate since before then. So trust me, they want to do a deal, but Trump's like, hey, I'm only going to do a deal if it's a good one. Why? Because I don't need you. In fact, he said we should just stop. If Trump said this out loud, because we should just stop doing business with China. And I'm sure people in India, Vietnam, Thailand, Ghana, where Mr. Whalen looks like he'll be going to in 3 weeks, which I totally want to hear about that, James. Totally want to hear about that while you're there or when you get back or whatever. So please let us know how that goes. I definitely want to hear about the economy on the ground in Ghana. I want to hear about, what kind of manufacturing they got going on over in Ghana. I want to hear about how the political situation is over there right now. Totally interested in that. I want to hear, like, even at the local level, like as far as food supply, food production, grocery stores, stuff like that. I want to hear they were the first country to get their independence from the Europeans in 1958, I believe. So they've had it the longest, about over 60 years now. So I'm kind of curious to see how they're doing over there. Because Ghana was even talking about when we were doing that, when we were getting this trade war with China. Ghana stepped up and they got a hold of Trump. Somebody in the Trump administration said, "Hey, we're open for business too. You know, screw the Chinese. We're like right across the Atlantic from you. It's really much closer. So you can. So I'm curious to see what kind of manufacturing facilities they have in place if they could step up also." But Trump's like, we don't need China. And, you know, he's totally right. I mean, look, the shit they make over there that we buy over here, that people want to buy from China, I mean, they can make that anywhere. They are, first of all, they are making it anywhere. They're making it in India. They're making it in Vietnam. They're making it in Mexico. Why are we buying from the Chinese? Screw them. None of those countries I just mentioned are trying to take us over. I mean, India, look, I mean, they're going to be a problem in the future, don't get me wrong. And again, that's why if we're going to buy stuff from somebody, hey, man, right next door, Baja, Mexico. I mean, they're literally right next door to us. We have a relationship with them for 200 years. We got a whole bunch of their people living here. There's a bunch of our people living there. We've had relationships with them for a long time. If we're going to send money to someplace, hey, right next door. You know, that's where you send it to. Don't send it 8,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean to somebody that's trying to take over the South China Sea and the continent of Africa. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Well, I mean, the elites have, you know, the elites allowed this to happen. They wanted this to happen. Soros,
they're making a fortune.
The globalists, Wall Street, yeah. I mean, and people, you know what's funny, Carl, and I know I'm sorry, but I know I say this a lot, but what's really funny is when I looked at my Google, right, when I was looking at my Google today, news, right? Guess what popped up in the news again? Civil War, right? And it seems like all of these outlets are talking about Civil War, and the left is losing their minds.
Oh, Bill Maher.
But see, here's the thing.
Bill Maher talked about it on his show last night, I guess, and he says he's gonna be nicer to Trump voters or something. I don't know. Let me see if I can pull up his story. Hold on. Go ahead. Keep talking. I'll pull it up. Let me see if I can find it.
But you know, Carl, I mean, Carl, and you're right about what you said. You know, I mean, not everybody's going to Carl?
Yeah, no, I'm still here. I'm just
not everybody's going to, okay. Not everybody's going to head for the hills. Like, let's say Trump loses re-election, right? God forbid, but let's say he does, right? And you're right. Not everybody's just going to go head to the hills, you know, if the likes of Bernie Sanders or some progressive gets in there, right? Now, what I will say is that as time goes on and, states start getting, let's say they phase out the GOP in states, they get progressive Democrats elected to office because it will be so much easier for them to obstruct voting investigations, voter fraud investigations. They will see to it that they have people that will, they'll get rid of all of the appointees that Trump has got nominated. They'll get rid of all those conservative judges. They will install their own judges. Obviously, we know that, right? Now, as all this goes on, people are going to say, like, look, we ain't changing it from the inside anymore. And then you're going to start seeing, crap hit the fan. And I truly believe that if that's what happens in 2020, if a progressive, you know what I'm saying? We will, I mean, the left, they have no idea what they're dealing with. They have no idea what they can't comprehend it. And Tom Benn said it best. He said it, is the left really prepared to deal with what could come? Because, you have militia groups popping up left to right. You have, you can't even find anything on gun sales. You can't. It's like all of that is gone. So that tells me that people are buying firearms left to right. It's like right now, one of the things that one of these tactics that these globalists are trying to do is they're trying to get banks and credit companies and insurance companies stop doing business with the likes of Remington, with the likes of Colt 45, I believe. No, what is it? Colt, I think. Let me see. Some of the gun manufacturing companies. I'm sorry, I don't.
Remington.
I don't. Yeah, Remington. And the fact that who was it? The courts allowed the Sandy Hook parents to sue Remington, right?
Right.
That's one of their tactics that they're doing. They want to now make it possible to sue. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now.
Well, now,
hold
on. Okay, now I'll tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why the court allowed him is to do that was because the way Remington was marketing the weapons, they were putting it like on, like, you know, like how you see, like when you're looking at like this article here, the Washington Times article I have up right now, and you'll see a bunch of ads for like Zounds, electrical. You see a bunch of like ads for electrical equipment or speakers or mixer boards. You'll see that like on my articles that I punch up. That's because, you know, that's who, when that's stuff I buy, right? So anyway, what Remington was doing with their weapons, they were putting them like on gamer sites and, you know, marketing it to like young kids, like marketing cigarettes to young kids.
Oh,
right. So So it's not a straight up. Okay, you can just sue a gun manufacturer. That's not what the court said when they took it up on appeal. They said, you know, in this particular case, the way the gun manufacturer was marketing to kids, and then the person who shot up Sandy Hook was a kid himself, and showing like, oh, like this is the way for you to be a man. Buy a gun, you'll be a man. You know, all kinds of stupid stuff like that. They were way overdoing on the marketing. So the court said, well, no, based on your actions, yeah, they were marketing to young kids. They were trying to like be a man. Like, you're not a man if you don't buy it. Like, girls won't want you. You'll be a nerd and you'll be lonely, and you know you won't be a man if you don't own a gun. Just, you know, own an AR-15 or own whatever. So that specifically is why. But no, I agree. They have a lot of immunity. It's federal law, but that immunity can be exceptions to it. Like, you know, like for instance, you run an ad and it says, buy this gun and kill people. Well, you know, then somebody buys this gun and kills somebody. It's like, well, oh, we're immune, you can't sue us. Well, BS on that. You know, you just told somebody to go kill somebody. So, I mean, yeah, you're going to get sued. So it was kind of narrow on that. But no, I do agree. One thing they have wanted for years to do is to be able to allow people to sue gun manufacturers just straight up. Anytime there's a shooting, like suing a car manufacturer anytime there's an automobile accident, you know, suing the actual car manufacturer, not just for a defect, but just because you made a car, you know, versus there was actually a defect in it. Like, you can always sue a gun manufacturer, like if you buy a gun and it goes off accidentally and shoots your friend, yeah, your friend can sue and say, hey man, it was a design defect, product liability case. You can always sue for that. But they just want to be able to sue the gun manufacturer if the gun was working perfectly. Like, say the car is working perfectly, for instance, and you're driving down the road and somebody hits you and that person dies. They want to be able to sue the car manufacturer. You know, the analogy would be they'd want to sue the car manufacturer for making cars that allows people to drive, that allows people to get killed driving a car. Not so much a product liability case. But I got the headline up right there. According to Bill Maher, there will be blood, and I'm not going to read everything he says out loud, but yeah. So, and then of course Trump's spiritual advisor, Pastor Jeffries, was earlier rebuked by liberal critics for saying the same thing. So, but Bill Maher's saying, look, there's going to be a problem if we don't learn how to live with each other. Well, no shit, where you been for 3 years? We've been saying that. See, we don't have a problem living with them, right? We don't have liberal derangement syndrome, okay? These guys have Trump derangement syndrome, also known as Trump anxiety disorder. They're the ones with the problems. Yeah. Okay, they're the ones who need help, and you know they're the ones who need to be more civil. So let me take a look at what the story says here real quick. Okay, so Bill Maher.
Obama. The interesting thing that Obama said, I don't know if you saw. I saw it today, and I posted it on my wall. Was that Obama was saying that you know, even he seemed to be cautioning the Democrats, you know, from going too far left, and I'm like, this is coming from the guy who, you know, tried to boost welfare and, you know, put tons of illegal immigrants on food stamps and, you know, just try to prop up, you know, he was propping up the welfare class. But, I mean, you know, I'm sorry, I don't trust what Obama, you know, he's trying to, you know, it's like, see, I guess, see, to me, it kind of falls under the plan of what they're doing, right? Like, let's say Trump wins re-election, right? And you already have Tulsi Gabbard using. Now, keep in mind, I don't fall for any of what she says. Like I said, I respected some of the things that she says, but that doesn't mean I support her or vote for her. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean anything like that at all. It's like me saying I respect the intelligence of George Soros, but I do not like George Soros. What he's doing, what he's done, you know what I'm saying? It's in that manner, right? But, you've got people like Tulsi using conservative talking points to try and, maybe even set up something in the future, right? Or, and Obama's kind of doing the same thing, and, and you're going to have some conservatives who fall for it and say, oh, finally they're starting to come down to reality. No, they're not coming down to any kind of reality. They're trying to, they're going to do whatever it takes to keep the New World Order narrative alive, and they're going to change tactics. They're going to use conservative talking points. They're going to use, like I even said before, they may even just let Trump, let Trump do what he's going to do for the next 4 years if he wins re-election. You know what I'm saying? And then they change their tactics based on what Trump has done. Not using what Trump has done, but they find a way to sneak the populist message into their socialist talking points, right?
Right.
Let's say they decide all of a sudden to, the globalist elite, the globalist elite who control George Soros decide that they're going to just, invest in jobs and make life just so great for everybody, right? And then, let's say later on down the road they start using, they start making more companies pay, medical, right? Or they start electing candidates who are going to make corporations, force corporations to give health care to part-time and full-time employees, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, they can do these things. They can hide a socialist message within free market talking points. You know what I'm saying? These are just some examples that we gotta know how to decipher. We gotta know how to choose how we hear. I mean, we gotta know how they're talking in code, right? We gotta learn how to decipher that. You know what I'm saying? Because I guarantee you're not going to see what I'm talking about anytime soon. You're going to see it in the future. And like I said, there's so much stuff that we got to do, and that's why I always encourage people, support groups like Young Americans Against Socialism, support Walkaway, support Brian Colfage's group. These are right-wing groups that are rising up to combat the left, and then sometimes, like when I promote Young Americans Against Socialism on Parler, right? I mean, I get good reaction. I never say donate, but I just say share, because I'm not trying to advocate for, donating. I'm just trying to bring it out there, and hopefully people like it, and they donate to this organization. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, I mean, the algorithms are making it hard for people to see my posts. I'm sorry, I still cling to that because I have a large base, and I know not everybody's seeing what I'm posting, It's like today, Judicial Watch is on Parler, and they've only got, and I'm shocked because I have a larger base than Judicial Watch does on Parler, and I'm like, I need to fix this. So I give Judicial Watch a shout-out. Nobody echoed it. Nobody liked it. Nothing. Nada. Zip.
Yeah, no, you're being shadow banned.
Tells,
I tell you what, though, Mr.
Yes.
Informer, Mr. Great Informer, I've been on for a little over 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the live stream for tonight. But stay there, don't go nowhere.
Oh.
Don't go nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 10:45, so I've been up for a while. So I'm going to end the live stream. Plus, I think Mr. H.A. Goodman will be coming on soon, and like I said, I brought my show back a couple hours because I like watching his live stream. Hey, I saw you on there the other night. You were on. I saw you go on H.A.'s live stream the other night.
Yeah. I gave both you guys a shout out.
Yeah, good deal, man. All right, excellent. All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank everybody who's been in the chat tonight. Some really intelligent chat. Thank you guys so much, and I want to thank Mr. Great Informer. Used to be the Great Informer, now it's just Great Informer, for his great phone call as usual. Always a good phone call. Hopefully we get you in on a video call again. I know the time change is a little bit different for you, but hopefully we get you on a video call. I want to say thanks to everybody in the chat. James Whalen, also, when you go to Ghana, I definitely want to get a report back like I was saying. So thanks, everybody. And to all those who are watching us, thank you. To all those who are watching us later, have a great night. And Mr. Great Informer, would you like to say goodnight to everybody?
Yeah, have a good night, everybody, and thank you for supporting Carl's opinion. You know, you guys are awesome. You guys are great. You know, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to us. You know, talk and give our viewpoints on everything. You know, you guys help us get the message out, and I hope that we're providing you guys with good content, and you know, hopefully, you know, and I would encourage anyone to call in one day. You know, I mean, you know, you guys, you know, I'd love to hear everybody else's opinions. I mean, I'm sure there's people in the chat who know a lot more about what's going on than I do. You know, and I would love to. I would encourage anybody to call in. You know, but well, hello?
You good? Wait, hold on. Let me put this in here.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Control V. There we go. All right, and everybody, there's Mr. H.A. Goodman's live stream. Dang, yeah, Mr. Nick Taylor, you got here too late again. Sorry, man. But yeah, I'm coming on around 8:30 from now on, Nick. Yeah, I'll be coming on earlier, 8:30 Pacific time, 11:30 East Coast time. But yeah, there's H.A. Goodman's link to his YouTube channel. I'll be over there tonight for sure, checking him out, and encourage everybody to go over there. I know a lot of people out here are subs already, but it's definitely always a good live stream. So anyway, thanks everybody. I want everybody have a great night, and we'll see you next time on Carl's